Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Inferno cast. I am Fox, the host and of YouTube's Inferno Fox Gaming channel, host of that as well. This is episode 60, where we will be unwrapping the Jill sandwich that is
Hmm.
Resident Evil. Inferno Fox Gaming, of course, has content regarding RPGs, Nintendo, and retro gaming, and Inferno Cast is here on YouTube, as well as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and more. And always, my weekly reminder to moderate video game playing, touch grass, and help your partner, parents, or roommates around the house. Today, though, we got two special guests joining us, both from the Super Retro Force. The Super Retro Force is a fantastic group of YouTube content creators I can't recommend enough. And they just hit over 1,000 subscribers. So big thumbs up, big celebration for that fantastic feat. And they've also added a couple new members as well. So again, we're going to make sure to link Super Retro Force in the description below, as well as the individuals' channels here. We have Rad Bash Gaming. He is one of the founding members of the SRF, and Rad's channel features fun pickup videos, podcast style interviews, live gameplay, and horror video content a la Petrified Pixels. So, Rad, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
And we, of course, have the Mad Belmont, another founding member of SRF. Mad not only discusses Castlevania content, as he was our guest last week, but horror video games and a lot more. And Mad also sometimes joins Rad on some of his live gameplays. So, Mad, thank you as well for joining us.
No problem, man. Thank you for having me back.
Absolutely. And joining us for this Resident Evil cast is my fantastic cast and crew. They have a lot of knowledge of Resident Evil, which is going to help me because of my limited knowledge of this. We have Simbu Darkfang, who has a couple of announcements to make, but he is the host of live streaming video games gameplay on the Scurry Face channel that is on Twitch. Again, link in the description below. Simbu, thank you so much for joining us. And what are your announcements, my good buddy?
Well, it's good to be back. Missed last week, and Mad Belmont apparently is very upset by that. Uh,
I am, man. I
but
was looking forward to you joining us on that combo.
my knowledge of that is very, very limited. So, you know, it works out. But not only does the SFWF return November 10th
Oh,
on
awesome.
the Twitch on the Scurryface _ official Twitch channel, but over the last few weeks, I have been working on a collaboration for the SFWF involving a local independent wrestling promotion. One of their performers has gone through and painstakingly, as myself and Wizzo done with the Scurryface reps, painstakingly recreated their roster for WWE 2K24. So, coming November 17th, and I believe I'm going to do a 6 p.m. start time because it's going to be a special event. It is going to be Scurryface versus RPW Galaxies Collide.
Oh, cool.
It is going to be a one-night event where the stars of RPW invade the Scurry Nation and the FSP, the new special FSP pay-per-view arena that I built for this. And it's going to be Scurryface versus RPW. And I already have confirmed one of their performers, as well as a partial owner of the company, Maximus Orion, will be joining me on commentary.
Nice. So you will, it's not just going to be you, it's going to be you and a special guest doing the commentary. It's you have a real larger than life persona with your commentary, so it's going to be really interesting to see how you collaborate with this additional individual. That's going to be cool.
There may be another special guest. He's got to talk to him and find things out, but I can say at least Maximus has confirmed for that show.
Excellent. So that's uh one. Did you have an additional announcement, or did
No,
that
that was
was
two.
that was two? Okay.
Yeah. The
Excellent.
return
So
of
guys, make sure
SFWF.
that you check that out. Really excited to have the SFWF return. Again, that's going to be November 10th. So again, that is Scurryface on Twitch and links in the description below. Also joining us, though, and we're gearing back to our Resident Evil cast, is my partner and partner in crime, Jamie Owls. And it's really cool because where my knowledge is lacking with Resident Evil, she more than makes up for it because she has beaten all of the Resident Evil games on the PS4 and 5. Jamie Owls, thank you so much for joining us and for your future contribution to this podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me. And just to confirm that I didn't play all games, but like just the ones for PS4 and PS5, just to clarify.
Right, right.
I'm still learning.
Yeah, so that's the remakes 2, 3, and 4, and the new 7 and 8.
Yes.
Excellent. And also joining us is Hillbilly Harticus, who is our good friend and resident Hill Slut. Hillbilly, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey there, thanks for having me again.
Absolutely. And looking forward to hearing your takes on some Resident Evil stuff. We also have with us Stormrosesky of the Twitch and YouTube channels of Stormrosesky. Storm, thank you so much for joining us. And for those watching on YouTube, we love your profile picture.
Thank you for having me. And I gotta tell you a funny story with that profile picture because in you see it. Sorry, you see my friend's big ol' head. Well, she had commented about me meeting Mr. England, Freddy Krueger himself, and said if you could make a popsicle stick version, like print out her selfie and put it on a popsicle stick and bring her with. Well, I printed out her photo and it took up the whole page, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go with this. So it's her. I walked around the Mad Monster Party with her big ol' head until I had to get in line to get our photo taken with Robert England, and he so graciously held up the photo, and it was the best 20 seconds of time. I wish I would have gotten there a little bit sooner because his autographs, they had a raffle ticket system for his autograph sessions because they would be miles and miles long. And if you got one of those raffle tickets, then you were going to be able to purchase his autograph from him. If you did not get one of those raffle tickets, you were SOL.
Dang.
So, but that's okay. I, still got to tell him that it was an honor to meet him and, got Freddy Krueger's freaking glove on my shoulder. So it was
Yeah,
all
I only
all
just
worth it.
that too.
All worth it. What's that?
I can attest to the length of Robert England's fandom for because he was at the Hollywood Palms not far from us here in the Chicagoland area years ago, and he had a 5-hour line.
Yeah.
I can believe it.
And he sat till everybody came through.
Yeah, because a lot of the horror movie icons, some of them, or a number of them, can be like some of the nicest people too.
Yeah.
Yes, he was super awesome. Just even in that brief seconds, one of the most genuine, nice human beings. And most of them there appeared really nice, and
Very
just
cool.
get the rep because oh my God, you're in horror. But I'm glad to be on this podcast talking about Resident Evil because I've only ever seen one played through. A friend of mine played through, and I wish I lived closer to Jamie L so I could watch her play through it. I like watching people play these games more than I like playing them myself, even though I own 2 of them for the Switch, but I've yet to play them. So,
Oh yeah, you definitely got to check them out. They're quite. Some of them are quite spooky. Some of them a little more actiony, and we're going to kind of get into that dichotomy of that. Jason the 13th, though, thank you for joining us. You are, of course, the YouTube channel Jason the 13th. We appreciate you jumping in and providing us your Resident Evil expertise.
No problem, but mine's the older games.
Nice.
PlayStation, GameCube, back then.
That's good. That perfectly balances out Jamie Owl's more recent experience. And last but not least, we've got Astrimedes, developer and co-owner of Second Place Games. Astrimedes, thank you for joining us. And I have no idea what your experience is.
I'm happy to be here. I will enjoy confidently spouting judgment about a whole series of games I've only played a bit of.
So, like I'd mentioned, though, I've only played a little bit. I remember being like 12 or 13 when the PS1 version came out and playing that a little bit, the first one. I got an hour into Resident Evil 2 Remake, a couple hours into Resident Evil 4, so don't really have a lot of play experience, but that's if you don't count the Famicom game Sweet Home. Have any of you guys heard of the Famicom game Sweet Home?
Nope,
Mm-mm.
I cannot say I have.
I have.
Yes.
I have.
Yes.
Red,
Heard of it, don't know anything about it.
let us know your experience or knowledge about Sweet Home.
It's a game.
It is indeed.
Yeah, I know of it. I know it's like what inspired Resident Evil, but I've never had the chance to play it myself.
How about you, man?
So, like Rad, I do know of it. It is a turn-based RPG, from what I could tell from what I've
Ugh.
seen in research of it. Of course, and that makes him groan because he hates that.
Ugh. Nasty. Nasty.
But yeah, it is what inspired Resident Evil, and I do have access to it, and I do hope to get that out of my backlog eventually.
Nice. And I'll just give the brief history lesson. So it released in December of '89 in Japan, only fan translation in the early aughts. I played it when I was like 19 or 20 or something like that. And even, being a young adult, it was one of the scariest games I've ever played on the NES. And it features a set number of individuals exploring a haunted mansion, fighting monstrous enemies, and some like puzzle-like elements. So only reason I mention that is that when development of Resident Evil began in '93, it was intended to be a remake of Sweet Home. But because Sweet Home is based on a Japanese movie of the same name, Capcom decided, okay, instead of trying to get the rights for all that stuff, let's just create our wholly owned property of our own. Thus, Resident Evil was born. So let's talk about the first actual entry in the series, Resident Evil 1, which released on the PS1 here in North America, April of '96, and allowed players to select either Chris Redfield or Jill Valentine to explore the mansion, arming themselves with like limited weapons and ammo and inventory space. And they have to explore the mansion they've taken shelter in while learning its dark secrets and connections to the Umbrella Corporation. So I'm going to ask you guys, if you've played the first Resident Evil, the PS1 version, or no, let's not even say that. If you've played the first Resident Evil, and which version, since it got that GameCube remake, and like your overall thoughts, and Brad, since you were correct in being able to identify Sweet Home as a game, I'll ask you.
That's what I live for.
If you've played Resident Evil 1, and which version, your thoughts?
So I've played both. I prefer the GameCube version because, it did enhance a lot of the original. It is technically a remake in a sense. It's like the HD version. But yeah, you play as Jill or Chris being the harder version of the game. I love it. I stand by the fact that I think it needs to be remade. I get hate for that all the time, but I mean, it's a classic game. It was a lot of people's entry into horror. I get those comments all the time. When I say, what was your first horror game? It's always Resident Evil, the PS1 version. But yeah, no, it's a fantastic game. It's a classic. And if you haven't played it, you definitely should. GameCube version is definitely the version I'm playing. You can get that, I believe, on PS4. Comes with that and like Zero, I want to say.
Yeah, because Jamie Owls, if you're interested, I do have Resident Evil 1 as a playable game.
She said, yeah, she wants it. She said, give, I need.
I must need.
Yeah, so anytime that you want to play that, it's there. I think we have Resident Evil 0 as well. Mad, what your thoughts on that? Do you feel the same way? Do you feel it also needs the remake?
I am on the opposite side of the spectrum. I don't think it needs one right now. Not right now. Remake Zero, Code Veronica, and remake those two at least before you go back to that. I am not opposed to that happening though, and I've said this before, but you need to do Zero and Code Veronica first. Get them out of the way, then go back. But as far as my experience with Resident Evil 1, I played the director's cut on PS1. That was my first horror game ever. And I also played the remake on the GameCube when I was a teenager. And I also have played the HD remaster of said remake on PS4. So I have a lot of experience with that game.
Nice. Excellent.
We argue often about the Resident Evil 1 remake. We'll be on the phone arguing. I'm like, no, it needs to happen. He's like, but hear me out. I'm like, no, stop it. It needs to be
and he'll just be sitting there making his case, and I'm just like, no, you're not hearing me out, okay? Like, yeah, we need these other games first.
And I'm ignoring him as he's saying his piece because my piece is the only important part.
Right. I mean, of course. Maybe they'll do something to make you both happy and just remake 0 and 1 at the same time, because 0's a prequel, right? To 1?
Yeah. Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
So like maybe you just do a thing where you start at 0 and then let the story just organically flow into 1.
Oh, that's not a bad idea. I actually like that.
They can call it Resident Evil 0.1 remake.
Some Kingdom Hearts type stuff right there.
There you go.
Oh yeah. As soon as you said that, I was just like, is he talking about turning Resident Evil into Kingdom Hearts?
Kingdom Hearts, yep.
So Simbu, how about you? Have you played the first Resident Evil game? Which version? And overall thoughts?
So I have, and I have not played the GameCube. I have not played the HD remaster. I have played the original one on PS1.
The OG.
The OG, and that was because of Jason the 13th. And I love the survival horror. I love the limited inventory space. I love the fact that it makes you think, how are you going to do this? Because you have these limited options. You can't just carry 1,000 health kits on you. You can't just carry, 1,000,000 bullets. You can't carry all the guns at once. So you got to plan your actions. I love the survival aspect of it. However, for the love of God, just like they say on the Apprentice or whatever it is, I'm out because of the stop drop shooting.
Oh yeah,
sorry. That is my biggest argument with the game, because these are trained military or whatever, trained police. You're telling me they cannot move and shoot at the same time? That is a huge and it looks like I'm not the only one that thinks that.
That's why I said remake it. Get rid of the stop drop. I'm right there. No disagreement here.
That's one of the reasons why I'm not opposed to it, because when a game from 3 years later, Silent Hill, can do that with pistols.
Yep.
And with a person that has no combat training at all,
none.
You've got no excuse. No excuse on that front.
Yep.
Now, wasn't Resident Evil 1 a thing where you had to save to go to a typewriter and you had a limited number of ability to save?
Yeah.
You had to find the little ink ribbon items to be able to save. Yep.
So do we limit that too? Is that something?
Nowadays they'd get rid of that.
Okay.
You just go to typewriters and save.
Yeah. Right, like they did with RE7.
Yep.
Yeah. Just get rid of that entirely.
For our younger audiences, typewriters are keyboards that are connected to computers. That's how we used to write things.
Easy, Grandpa, easy. We don't want to overwhelm them too much.
And if you made a mistake, you had to throw the whole page away and start over, because nobody could figure out how to get the stupid eraser thing to work.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
I do miss the way my keys felt typing on the typewriter.
Oh yeah, you hit
that's why you get a mechanical keyboard, like
they make
all the programmers that are obsessed with, like mine.
Those are cool. I like those. I thought about getting one because, like, I love the clickety clackety. It makes me feel important. I'm like, click, 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 click.
And now we have lost all those young audience members.
Yeah, they're all gone. They all left. They said, what is happening here?
Yes, I can hear
Guess
the
who
eye
much for
rolls
them?
and the okay boomers.
Yep.
They're all doing the skibbity whatever.
Toilet
they say.
Ohio Sigma
Skibbity
song.
toilet Ohio Riz. Man, my brain it just
Sigma.
sinks. Sigma, yeah. Oh no.
Oh gosh. Now Jamie Ellis, I know you had mentioned that you really haven't played Resident Evil 1 or the classic ones. But Hillbilly, Resident Evil 1, PS1 version, GameCube, both, neither.
Oh, PS1 version. It's you know me, I'm the old guy, so
As evidenced by the typewriter.
As we
Yeah.
learned, yeah.
Yeah, PS1 version. You know, you gotta love that classic voice acting. It was just so perfect. But I mean, it wasn't my first horror game, but you know, I fell in love with that series. I've read all the books, played a whole bunch of the games, not any of the newer ones, but yeah, PS1 Resident Evil is just classic.
So I have to ask, just because you said it wasn't your first horror game, what was your first horror game?
Probably Maniac Mansion.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Is that a horror game though?
So
You put a hamster in a microwave. Yes, it's a horror game.
it is considered to be.
To PETA, that's a
PETA,
horror.
it's a horror game. Yeah. No, it is classified as a horror game, but
Oh, yeah.
it's.
I'd say it counts.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and really, PETA kills more animals than most groups, so it's more important to them than a horror game.
This is very true. People eating tasty animals.
Wow, Hillbilly, that's a part. That would have been a great parting shot right there. Good night, everybody.
Yeah, I probably should have saved that one for the end, shouldn't I?
Oh, this just took a dark turn really quick.
We could revisit. We'll revisit.
Yeah,
Sorry,
we can always
it's
revisit
been a
that.
weird couple weeks for me. I apologize.
Yeah, I remember Maniac Mansion like having a couple characters die on there. So yeah, you're not wrong. Ugh.
I mean, it's light horror. There was aliens, if I remember correctly. There was, in my opinion, horror elements. So I mean, I would count it as a horror game.
I like you. I like you.
But
Be afraid, Hillbilly. Be very afraid.
Couldn't find gasoline for that chainsaw. Storm, I had mentioned that you really haven't played too many of the Resident Evils really at all. You got a couple on the Switch. So I'll ask Jason the 13th. You had mentioned you've played the PS1 versions, and that of course includes the RE1, right?
Oh yes. Played Resident Evil 1 on the PlayStation multiple times, and then played through it on the GameCube at least once. So
Now, was there anything in Resident Evil 1, Jason, that you found scary?
first time you meet the dog.
Oh, with the window?
Yes, you go through the hallway like 4
Yeah.
times, nothing happens, and then all of a sudden you go through and oh crap, here comes a wild animal at you.
They
No matter
switched
how
it
many-
in the HD one.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
instead of going one way, it's the other way. So they get you. You think, oh yeah, it's good, and then you walk through and it gets you, and you're like, oh what? Yeah, oh it's perfect. Yeah, it's perfect.
Yep.
That was probably like the scariest, like the biggest jump scare in the game.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
for
hands
sure.
down.
Mhm.
For sure, man. That part always gets me, no matter how many times I play that
Yeah.
game. And I know it's coming, but it
Yep.
still gets me.
It's
Oh my
perfect.
gosh. Astrimedes, how about you?
Yeah, I didn't finish the first Resident Evil, but I did play it on PlayStation 1. I think I borrowed it from a friend for like a week or something. So I probably put a good 8 hours in it or something like that. I really liked it. Similar to Hillbilly, I'd say probably maybe Shadowgate or something was officially my first horror game I played. Yeah, so it wasn't a totally alien concept to me, but I did, I've always really liked horror movies and stuff. And what struck me right away about Resident Evil 1 is just that it was the first game I'd seen that really felt like cinematic, like in that every camera angle is totally intentional. Like people complain about the fixed camera and stuff, but honestly, I think it's kind of great. It does what it's supposed to. It gives you this very kind of like curated, controlled by the director sort of view of exactly what you're seeing, which is, really effective for horror. So to me, like I found it actually more enjoyable in like Resident Evil, and those more difficult to deal with than something, like other games where you kind of end up in sort of a similar situation where you jump scene to scene and you have to navigate a little differently, because I could see why everything looked, how it did. And of course, like everyone else, the dog scene definitely got me. It was a really big, obvious touch point. I at least played it long enough to definitely remember that part. And my, hot take would actually be that like I like the whole you can't move and shoot thing, because again, like it's a design choice, right? The whole thing is like thinking about it, to me, like thinking about it in terms of like they should be able to move and shoot. It's like I get that feels like it's kind of stretching your verisimilitude. Like, why can't this like person-shaped person that's clearly on the screen not act like one, like I'd expect, like move around and shoot whatever? And I do think in a modern game, I feel like you could do things like just way slow down the reaction times, make it so they still have to pick the gun up, make it so they walk incredibly slow when the gun's out, whatever. Do a bunch of tiny things that like dials it to the point where it is a more efficient player without thinking as much about it, maybe just isn't going to draw their gun unless they really need to and they're ready to shoot. And it has kind of the same effect that you need to kind of find a spot to sort of plant and then unload if you're going to plan to do that, and then run the hell away, because it's a survival game. And like the later, I'm sure we'll get into as we talk about the later entries, like you start to take more and more of that away, and you have less and less of that actual fear of the enemies. You're just anyone else in any other video game that has a gun and can gun everyone down. But yeah, I liked Resident Evil 1. I thought the limited inventory stuff was really effective. And honestly, I even think the save thing is like kind of fun. I will admit, a game of like that length, it's kind of like awful and doesn't respect the player's time in a way. But like part of me kind of like likes that idea, because it's such a good, like it feels anyway like a good risk reward mechanic. Like, do you want to keep pushing it because it's only your fault a lot of the time because you were trying to, hold out, I don't need to save yet, whatever. And of course the first one, which I think more so than the other games, at least the ones I've played, everything is actually very scarce. Do I want to fire this one bullet? Do I want to save here? It's just a really, I thought it was the first game that really stuck with me in large part because it was the first game I played that felt really cinematic.
No, those are some salient points there. And talking about the limitations, with like just this particular game where you have these specific set camera angles, and maybe it is a limitation for the development of the game, because again, the game started development in 93. They were only just getting used to what CD Media could do, what the PlayStation could do. So there's these limitations, but anybody who knows horror movies in general know that some of the scariest movies and the lowest budgets end up being some of the biggest classics that can truly frighten and scare people. Storm, would you agree with me on that? If you're gonna,
Yes, I had to unmute
yep.
myself.
Don't forget to slide.
Yes,
Fortnite
yes,
check.
yep, absolutely. Because some look at what's going on with Terrifier right now.
Ooh.
Art the Clown is a independent little film, and right now it won the box office this weekend. So,
Crazy movie.
yeah, yeah.
Do not
Um,
eat, do not watch that if you have a full stomach.
Oh,
no,
yeah.
and it's on the orders of torture porn almost.
Yeah, it's close. It's real close.
Mm.
Yeah.
So there is a market for all of those things, and if it's really really well made, then it will find a home. Look how long we've had Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th, and Scream has gotten into the lexicon of horror, and now Saw, the movies that never freaking end for Jigsaw. So, absolutely, if they find something and it works, and it doesn't have to be a great big budget, because there are some that have horribly big budgets and are just crap. So,
Yep.
Yeah,
there
definitely.
there is room for independence to grow. That's my take.
Absolutely. And regarding the Resident Evil itself, of course, the PS1 would get a few more entries, though part of the mainline series includes the numbered entries of 2 and 3, Three Nemesis, released in 1998 and 99, respectively. The second entry sees Leon Kennedy and Claire Redfield amidst Raccoon City besieged by zombies and other horrors. The third focuses on returning character Jill Valentine within the same city, albeit one day earlier. My overall impressions, again, that I'm the outsider looking in, include the following, and that's the second entry of Resident Evil often competes with the fourth one for the best in the series, and the third one was too short and didn't really feel like a proper sequel, and that the recent-ish remakes for 2 and 3 were absolutely fantastic. So, guys, how on the mark are my impressions? And have you played the second and third Resident Evil entries? Mad, I'm picking on you first.
Okay, so I I had never heard people say that the original Resident Evil 3 was too short, but that's new to me. But I love both those games. Resident Evil 2 is my favorite Resident Evil. Love it. Cannot get enough of that game. I have played the second remake for 2. Love that one too. That was my game of the year for the year it came out. 3 remake, I don't have any experience with, but all I keep hearing about that game is the fact that it's the short one.
Yeah, that's what I meant. 2 is like normal sized and 3 is the short one. Apologize if I mixed that up.
But yeah, that's what I keep hearing about that. Now, I do plan to rectify that with 3 remake here soon and 4 remake. Sorry, Rad. I know I'm probably breaking your heart with that, but yeah, I do plan to rectify that. Okay, don't hurt me. I plan to rectify it.
It's Rad. What are your thoughts?
3's remake is terrible. That is a terrible game. Nobody liked it. Nobody liked 3's remake. Sorry, you as soon as you said people like the third remake, I had my brain like snapped a little. Yeah, no, people did not like that. They cut so much, they ruined a whole bunch. Yeah, people didn't like that. But anywho, yeah, no, the remakes were good. The originals were good. I think they were on the N64, PS1, and GameCube. I played the GameCube versions for like 5 minutes and then stopped. So my experience was with the remakes, which I agree with Belmont. The second's remake is phenomenal. That is a great game.
Nice. Excellent. Jamie Owls, what are your thoughts on Resident Evil 2 and 3 remake? Do you feel 3 remake was that bad?
Since I never played any of the originals, to me, third one, I have to agree, it was very short. It wasn't bad. I mean, I can't compare. Sorry.
You're okay. Just messing with you.
You're bracing for what I was gonna say. Honestly, like since I can't compare, I mean, I thought the graphics were great. I thought the gameplay was good. It's just I just wish it was longer, like the second one, because I think the storyline could have been more improved. But yeah, and the second one too, I thought was really good. And then like the remake of it was the first time I ever played it. So I thought like that was a phenomenal game. And the first time I played it, I was, lost. And so because Mr. X gave my anxiety level a 10, I stopped and I went back to playing it as Leon Kennedy. And I know if you play the different character, the ending outcome is different. So when I'm ready to play Resident Evil 2 again, I do see myself playing Claire just to see how that ends.
So it's funny that you said Mr. X gave you anxiety and that's why you stopped playing. So my girlfriend was playing it and that's what made her stop. She didn't like when Mr. X came in.
Oh,
She
yeah,
liked
when
it
the
up
music
until that.
started.
Yep. Yeah, she hated it. She couldn't play it anymore. She stopped. She's like, if you get me past that, I'm like, that's like half the game. Like,
Yeah.
you're giving me so much. Like, I can't just get you past that. Like, yeah, no. So that's funny that was a same thing with you.
Oh
Yeah.
gosh. Simbu, how about you? What are your thoughts and experience with the second and third Resident Evils?
Oh, well, show and tell. I have my physical of RE2 remake.
Nice.
I don't have a physical of RE3 because I did buy that digitally only. And well, I'll save the other one for later. But I truly did enjoy RE2 and 3 remake. Yeah, 3 was a bit short, felt a bit short, but again, overall, I enjoy the fact that it's caught up to modern gameplay. Um, that's was a big plus for me because you can move and shoot, but there are heavy penalties, which is if they do finally remake RE1, that's what they need to follow with that same format. There are heavy accuracy penalties. Yeah, you can move and shoot, so the enemies aren't quote unquote as dangerous anymore, but they take more hits to put down.
Yep.
So instead of drop planting and boom, one shot to the dome, now it may be move shot and 2 hits to the dome to put them down.
Yep.
But the point is there are ways that when they do these remakes, as they have found, to incorporate modern style gameplay to make it seem more fluid, to make it seem more realistic. Again, people who have been combat trained running through this thing, they have to stop and shoot to actually fire. No, that would be somebody like me who is not combat trained that has to stop, plant my foot, and fire. Not somebody like one of our military soldiers. They should be able to shoot on the go if they need to. But again, big pluses, big ups. I did enjoy both of them. 2 obviously was the better one, but 3 was still enjoyable. And we're not even going to talk about the throw-in crap they gave us, the multiplayer throw-in. We're not going to talk about those.
Nope. Yeah, that we are just sticking with the main single player stuff because not touching multiplayer Bojazz.
I guess I should reiterate 3 isn't a bad game. Let me
it did get a 79 on Metacritic.
Yeah, it is a good game. It's just it is incredibly short and they did cut a lot of stuff. So it took out of it didn't so that had its own different team developing it. So while we had 2, which was really, really spot on to it, you had this team that kind of screwed the pooch, let's put it that way, and really just took out of what it could have been. So it felt more like the actiony, type thing. I don't know if Simbu would agree with that, but it felt more actiony than 2 felt more horror. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that summation of it. But at the same time too, look at the difference in, and I mean, we're not going to really touch on them, but I do want to point this out. Look at the 2 differences of the multiplayers that they threw in with the games.
Okay.
So you have Reverse, which came with 2. That was a bit more Dead by Daylight-ish.
Right.
Versus the one, I can't remember the one that came with 3, but that one was felt more kind of like a team v team, like a death match.
Yeah.
So like I said, you also got to look at the multiplayers that came with the games that they threw in there. While one was more, 1 on 4 or whatever, the other was 3v3.
Right.
So
that's fair.
Multiplayer more actiony versus more, survival.
Right.
I wonder if that might have been a reason for RE3's more actiony feel.
Oh, no, yeah, it could be. That's a good point.
And it also makes me wonder how much of all of the teams were busy working on 7 or maybe even in planning stages of 8 during the development of 2 and 3. Probably more 7, I think.
Yeah. No, it would have been 8. 7 came way before. Yeah. So it would have been 8 and or any other future project they were doing. I want to say the team that did 2 was working on, I don't even think it was a Resident Evil game. So they had this other team developing it and they were short on time. So it was a time constraint thing. It was hey, we got to get it out. We got to get it out now. But I mean, like I said, it's not a bad game. it's a Resident. It did it justice. It just I'm a sucker for you cut content, and I'm kind of like, like it's supposed to be a remake, not a let's completely cut everything, and so that is my perspective of it.
Remakes allow for elaboration, not cliff notes summaries. But
Hey, I
I
just want
want
to
to
say one thing.
I actually
One,
want to kind of move on because I want to get Hillbilly's take on this RE2, RE3 remake, OG. What are your thoughts, Hillbilly?
Yeah, played both of them. Number two is, in my opinion, the best one of the series. It's just such a fun game. Three, and it's been a while since I played these, so I'm going to be not very detailed, but like, the Nemesis was, I thought, a unique enemy, was fun. Playing the two different characters is always, adds an interesting aspect to, two and three. Or I think three had two, didn't it? I can't remember. It's been a long time,
I
but
think
I
it was,
do remember them both being really fun games. Go
yeah.
ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, it's I think I know three had Jill. Did you play both as Jill and Carlos or just Jill?
That's what I couldn't remember if there was a second. I couldn't remember who the second person was. Carlos. That reminds.
Rings a
Because
bell.
nobody played as him and everyone just picked Jill.
Well, yeah. I mean, Jill is definitely the favorite.
Gee, I wonder why. Jason, how about you? 2, 3 remake OG?
I did not play the remakes. I have played through both of the OGs of them though. And two, of course, so much better.
Astrimedes, how about you? Did you end up doing it 2 or 3 at all?
I think I played like a tiny bit of two, but not enough to really remember anything about it. So not really, and I definitely haven't played any of the remakes.
No worries. Simbu, sorry to cut you off. I wanted to make sure that I had touched upon Hillbilly, Jason, and Astrimedes.
oh, I just wanted to throw it out there that Rad, you should be happy that it was Capcom that made RE3 remake and not EA, because they would have sold all that as a DLC.
No, that's fair. It's a solid point. Solid point. No, that's fair. Yeah.
Or Konami at the time that it was made, because that was when Konami was hated by everybody.
Yeah,
if
that's true,
Konami
too.
if Konami did it, we never would have gotten a game.
It would have been a
They
pachinko
would-
machine.
Yeah, it'd have been a pachinko machine. We never would have had anything out of it. Yeah, or like little chibi figures. Yeah, no, I'm good.
Oh
Yeah,
gosh.
Rad, EA presents the cutting room floor footage from RE3 for $25.99.
Battle Pass.
Battle Pass.
Tape style. You have to unlock the tapes.
Oh gosh. So also around this time is kind of when Resident Evil had spin-offs. They'll just touch upon these briefly. Spin-offs like Resident Evil Survivor. Then it even kind of branched out from there with stuff like Dead Aim, Outbreak, Deadly Silent, The Umbrella Chronicles, Revelations, and more. And we could probably go down a rabbit hole with that, but I want to keep, I'll just go ahead and stick with the mainline series. And one of the next games after 3, and Mad Rad guys, yell at me if I've got this wrong. I actually think the from my research, the next in the mainline series after 3 was Resident Evil Code Veronica, released in 2000. Even though it does not have a number moniker, it is still part of the mainline series.
Correct.
Then after Code Veronica itself was an interesting release because if I'm remembering my information, it was a Dreamcast release first. Then it got a release, I think, on like the PS2. Then as like Resident Evil Code Veronica X. Then it got to the GameCube, if I'm remembering right. Then back to the Dreamcast with the Veronica X. But after Code Veronica was, and I'm hoping I got this right, it was Resident Evil 0, which also came out the same year that one remake did in '02, which of course 6 years after the OG version had come out. So like, hey, 6 years for a remake. I mean, maybe this is where Sony got their current playbook from. Only 6 years they're doing a remake. That's got to be it. What's really interesting though is if we're talking about this kind of time period where Code Veronica in 2000, 0 and 1 remake in '02, You got the coup de grace, which was Resident Evil 4 in
Oh.
'05.
Oh,
So I'll ask you guys, of Code Veronica 0 and 4, which of them have you played? Does the fourth entry meet all the hype? Simbu, I'm going to call on you last on this because you will not disappoint. You always come through for me when I need you most. I'm going to ask Astrimedes. I'll start with you. Have you heard of or played Code Veronica 0 or 4?
No, I haven't. The only game I played in this period is one of the terrible spin-offs we don't need to talk about, Umbrella Chronicles, from a well-meaning relative on the Wii. That was a very bad on-rails shooter.
that hurt my heart to hear, sir. Oh, I love the Umbrella Chronicles. My heart
do
is
too, man. Like,
broken.
come on.
That was
Oh,
fun.
yeah,
It
my
was like
heart.
Time Crisis at home.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was the problem.
That's fair. That's fair. All right.
No, not fair. Astrimedes, you have been shunned.
Poor guy got asked his opinion, then he got shunned afterwards.
Oh man. Jason 13th, how about you? Code Veronica 0 or 4?
I have played Code Veronica. I played it on the Dreamcast at one of my buddies' houses,
Wow.
actually. Didn't get to finish it my playthrough on that one. Never repicked it up, of course. But I do own Zero on the GameCube. So yes, I have played through that one too. But that's pretty much when my Resident Evil pretty much stopped. Is for
Oh,
I don't know why, it just
Man, you look so
faded
sad.
away.
I'm gonna cry.
Oh,
I'm gonna
I
cry
know.
so
I'll
bad
make
it
you
threw me
cry.
off the screen.
Brad, it's okay. You got my shoulder's right here. You can lean on it. Okay.
I'm so sad.
Yeah, and then I really haven't touched the Resident Evil franchise since then.
That's so weird because you love just horror stuff.
I know, and I was going, I don't know, something just happened, and I just kind of fell out of Resident Evil at that point.
If only you had friends that had all the Resident Evil games that you could borrow and get into them.
Yeah.
Man. Hardicus, how about you? Code Veronica 0, 4?
I have Veronica and Veronica X on the Dreamcast and the PS2.
Nice.
Couldn't tell you a damn thing about them because I don't remember a single detail about them. I never got a chance to play 4, even though I've heard it is absolutely fantastic. It's one of those bucket list games I'll get to eventually.
See, to me that's interesting because like I played 4 about an hour of the Switch version because that was my first time ever, like, and I got bored of it. Like,
I think Rad's disowning us.
just
I think
like
I'm leaving this
Leon
podcast. This is
Leon was
terrible.
just
Goodbye.
he was so slow and everything was so beige.
Let me just leave and
But
I'll
like
leave.
I did actually play 4. I was only thinking about Code
Oh.
Veronica and 0, but yeah, I did play 4 if I mistakenly answered previously.
what were your thoughts on 4? Because I'm guessing you played the
4
GameCube one.
Yeah, I played it on GameCube. I liked it. It was the only Resident Evil game I actually played beginning to end.
Oh, nice.
And to me, I thought, I mean, I do think it was like kind of less moody and less scary than like my impression of like the first game or the first couple games or whatever. But I do think it was still moody and at times like did set up some nice kind of claustrophobic, scary kind of scenes and stuff like that. It was very beige, but all games were very beige at the time. I'll remind
In that
everyone.
era.
Yeah,
That
right.
was the style of the aughts.
Right, it was the style at the time. But yeah, I liked Resident Evil 4 overall. Like I do feel like it does tend a little much towards the actiony side, but to a lesser degree than the kind of transgressions that followed in the series, I would say.
of which we will touch upon. Jamie Ells, I'll ask your opinion on Resident Evil 4 remake because if it was anything like mine, my thought with remake was that it was such a fantastic progression. It was all my issues that I had with the version on the Switch. So I've heard the best version of the OG Resident Evil 4, oddly enough, is the Wii version. I think it has something to do with the motion controls. I think motion controls are awful, but people like them. People like them, and that's what I've heard was had gelled so much with the OG. But the remake, any of my issues I had with the one I played on the Switch were remedied. Leon moved. He actually moved. He didn't. He wasn't like lurching. You wouldn't have thought that he was a trained police officer, military man, special agent of the United States federal government. Like he actually moves at a good pace. Gunplay is absolutely fantastic, appropriately spooky, scary. Jamie Owls, your opinion's more important. What were your thoughts with Resident Evil 4 Remake?
I thought it was fantastic. The original one, I remember just watching a friend play through, and I even thought at that time I thought it was a really cool game. Um, just hearing about how popular Resident Evil 4, I finally played it for myself for the first time from start to finish, and I have to agree with all the critics that Resident Evil 4 is probably the best out of the franchise. I thought the graphics were great, the movement was great. I know there's different levels you could play as like settings from easy to hard, so of course I always play at the easy level, but I smoothed through that and I thought it was really scary. I thought it was really creepy. But yeah, I really think Resident Evil 4 is probably one of the best.
Nice. And Rad, your thoughts about four versions you've played, as well as if you've done Code Veronica or Zero?
Oh, see. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So, okay. So, girl, that's why you're my favorite because you addressed that Resident Evil 4 is the best. That's why she's my favorite. Yeah, no, Resident Evil 4 is chef's kiss, original and remake. The best. The best. Yeah, 4 is a little goofy, but hey, best games. Code Veronica's good too, don't get me wrong. But yeah, Resident Evil 4, chef's kiss either way, whether you're playing any version of it. I don't know why someone said the Wii version was the best version, but whoever told you
Because
that,
you could
Fox,
go like
don't.
this to use the knife. I somehow
No,
remember,
ew,
even though I didn't
ew,
play it on the
ew.
Wii. It's
Yeah,
actually
no.
true.
See, okay, so I would say if you wanted like a motiony one, play the VR one because that's awesome. Like I'm playing through that right now, like it's crazy. But like the Wii version is like, ugh. I don't know if it's because I'm a fat dude or what, but I'm sweating as I'm like, yeah, no, no, none of that. But no, the PS2 version was great. Came with all that extra content. You play the PS4 version, which I'm talking the original PS4 version. You get the cut content with it. You play the remake. They enhanced everything that everybody was upset about. It's not as goofy anymore. Luckily, they kept some of the lines that gave it that charm. Because as much as people hated it, come on, where'd everybody go? Bingo. It was just
Bingo.
Leon. Yeah, it was perfect. Like it was funny, but like it was like, yeah, what's going on? Yeah, no. Resident Evil 4. That's the best in the series. The best, my favorite like game. I could sit here all day, but I won't. But yeah,
Oh, Simbu, you're going to be on deck. Be ready. But Mad, your thoughts for Resident Evil Code Veronica Zero and RE4?
Oh, I didn't even talk about Zero. My bad.
No, that's all right.
You got me talking 4, dude. I was all in.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, that 4 is rad. 4 is rad's game.
Oh, baby,
now, now for me, I have not played Code Veronica in any form. That was when I skipped because back during the time I was stupid enough to be like, oh, no number next to it, not playing it. So I do plan to rectify that. But I have played Resident Evil Zero. I played it on the GameCube. I actually played it at the same time that I played the original on GameCube because
nice.
My dad at the time, he was great with this. He traded a lot of stuff back then. And my PS2 was kind of getting iffy. It was iffy on reading discs and whatnot. And I'd had that thing since 2000. So he traded it with his boss at the time for his GameCube. So I got his GameCube and all his games that I played before. So, which included 4, 0, and 1 remake. And I played the heck out of that game. I played the HD remaster on both Xbox One and PS4. And then for 4, dude, that game, that is one of my favorite PS2 games of all time. I love that game to death. I first played 4 back in 2005. I rented it. Immediately said, I have got to get this. And I got it for Christmas and I slaughtered that game.
My man.
It is one of the best Resident Evils. I will always argue with people when they say that 4 ruined the series. I want to slap everybody that says that because it's so good. Love it.
Hold my beer. Simbu. There's a reason why I've been keeping Simbu on deck.
Oh no! Oh please!
This is your time to shine.
Am I gonna have to do something here?
That's where Simbu and I stopped being friends.
Simbu,
it's more than likely.
What were your thoughts with Resident Evil 4, both the OG and or the remake?
So never played the OG.
Oh.
Have not played my experience with 4, Veronica, and 0 are the book series by S.D. Perry. Fantastic book series, by the way. The novelizations of all the REs. I have the entire series. Now
they're good.
Yes, they are, Hart. Yes, they are.
I didn't even know there were books, so that's cool to find out. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I knew about them. I just ain't read them.
Yeah, I went into I jumped off here while you guys were talking because I went to go jump into my closet, try and get into my box of books down in the back corner of it to pull them out for a little show and tell. But sadly, they're too buried at the bottom of that box. I can't get to them. But, and this is where Rad disowns me.
Oh,
Rad
no.
stops being my son.
The disownment.
Father, no.
Want to talk to me again.
Father, no.
But RE4 remake.
Oh no.
Come on. Really? You tried, and I don't care what everybody says. Oh, it's such a great game. It's the best in the series. No. Absolutely not. It gets to become too much of a departure from what the originals were. The survival horrors aspect really starts to get lost. And well, I mean, we could start off with the real big one. What is about 30 minutes in? How do you block a chainsaw with a K-bar?
Okay, that's fair.
You block a chainsaw with a K-bar.
I'll give you that.
But here's the thing though. If you're going into a horror franchise in its 4th entry with any sort of sense of realism, I think you're missing the point of a horror video game and just like a video game in general. Now, I agree with you. Especially if you think about the OG purpose of a chainsaw, to help women give birth. Like, how would a K-bar be able to block that?
Hold up here.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons
wrong.
why a chainsaw was invented, to help.
Hold on, girl. We gonna get that baby out. No. Those poor women. Oh no.
So, but no, Simbu, you make a good point. Right there, maybe that could take you out of it. But I gotta say, like, seeing that, I got far enough into, because that's in the beginning of the game, like you said, half an hour in, seeing Leon block the chainsaw with the knife, even in seeing the like high def, I thought that was pretty cool to see.
Well, and so, and the other reason, okay, the other big argument I take with the game is that it is such a departure from 1, 2, and 3, which all take place in roughly Raccoon City or nearby. All of a sudden, now you're in, correct me if I'm wrong, Las Plagas, I believe, is the name of the.
That's what
they call the thing,
town.
Las Plagas,
Plagas,
right?
Yeah. I was thinking
Yeah.
of the virus thingy, the little alien creature inside of him. It's not an alien, but it's the little virus thing. Yeah, I think it's in
Right.
like Spain or something. Like
It's in not Spain.
It's in not Spain.
It's not in the country of not Spain.
But again, the thing is,
Inspired
though,
by Spain. There we go. Yeah, there we go. Get the quotes in there.
right? But again, the biggest thing though too, is, like I'm saying though, it's such a departure from what the virus is and all that. You're going now you're getting into parasites. Well,
Right.
we haven't done anything with parasites before. There's no mention of parasites in 1, 2, and 3. It's the virus. It's a virus. It's not, oh, let me go. Here we go. Here we go. Watch. The face hugger. Oh, now I'm infected with the alien. Okay.
Right.
It's such a huge departure. And the fact that it is so heavily lauded as the best in the series of all time, again, this is why I take the biggest issue, why I hate RE4.
Oh.
And it's the fact that it literally sets up the westernization of the Resident Evil series for the very next 2 train wrecks.
And Simbu, that is an excellent segue, because I do want to briefly touch upon RE5 and 6. And this is what I call the awkward teenage phase, or the Japanese developers trying too hard to catch the attention of Western audiences phase, as Simbu has said. Everything I've heard about these is Capcom was absolutely guilty of this with Chris Redfield's boulder punching goodness of RE5, and then even just RE6 itself. Again, they get a lot of hate. I'm saying it that I've never played RE5 or 6. I know Jamie Owls hasn't played RE5 or 6.
Not yet.
Rad and Mad, do RE5 and 6 deserve the hate that they get?
You go first, Belmont. I'll go second. You go first.
I honestly think that they do as single player experiences. As single player experiences, they definitely do, because the AI partners that you get are absolutely dumb.
Okay, I
They
misunderstood.
They get in your way when you try to get through a door. They never help at all, especially in bosses. So there's that, but they're fun co-op games. Like, I played those games with friends, loved it, loved the experience, because you're sitting there kind of ribbing each other and kind of, trying to, or at least in the case of me and one of my friends, we co-streamed Resident Evil 6 together when I was just a Twitch streamer, and we were sitting there trying to out wrestle each other, because you could do wrestling moves like a German suplex and a running bulldog, and we were trying to out wrestle each other with the enemies in there. So it can be fun with it in co-op, but as single player experiences, they deserve it for sure.
I'm gonna say, have you ever played a game that has an AI co-op partner? I mean, for God's sakes, they all suck.
Yeah. No, and I'll piggy off what Belmont said, and this actually goes to Fox and Jamie Owls. Since neither of you have played it, play it together. Don't play it alone. Don't play it with bots, because 5, and I agree with Simbu. 4 did definitely, it started the, hey, we're gonna go more action. 5 is not a horror game. I don't care what anybody tries to tell me. I know it's classified as one. It's not a horror game. 5 is definitely action. 6, there's a horror chapter. If you play Leon's chapter, that's definitely horror. Anything outside of that is not, but they are definitely, I think they get too much hate. I think they are the perfect co-op games. If you want to, I played them with my sister. I had an absolute blast. They were the best games we could play together. We made up little side stories for Ada's chapter and the 6th one. We called the guy, what was his name? His name was Mr. Agent. He doesn't talk. He just mumbles because he doesn't say anything. In Ada's chapter, it's just some random dude they put there. So he's like, "Roo, roo, roo." And it was a blast. It was like our own little side thing. And it was a great time. But no, if you play them alone, they're absolutely terrible. And it definitely took the series in a direction that it's a whole different thing at that point. I consider those to be spin-offs even when they're not.
It's funny how Code Veronica is not numbered, but it's a mainline, and 5 and 6 almost feel like spin-off games, and they're not.
Yeah, it's weird.
So the idea that they got away from the horror roots, we got back to them with Resident Evil 7 in 2017, and while this innovated by being fully first person, it was also a clear return to form. The first few entries feature fear-based exploration. The fourth series treaded more in the direction of action shooter. RE7 back. I feel RE7 again. I have not played it. I watched and kept Jamie Owl's company while she was playing it. Just being the observer, in the same room on the TV, it felt more visceral, more real, thanks in part to some of the first person elements. So I'm going to ask you guys, have you played RE7? What are your thoughts about it moving to first person? Do you think that helped with the immersion? And for those that played the oldest entries, do you feel RE7 was a return to form? Um, Simbu, I'm gonna ask your thoughts on all of that. For those listening, he is holding up a copy of his Resident Evil 7 PS4 copy.
Yes. So for 5, I played probably about, I don't know, 20 minutes and said, I can't do this. Never played 6. Again, after my experience with 5, I said, no, not at all. Again, 7 is a 100% return to form. Yes, it's, controllable cameras, it's first person, but they do it in the right way. It's not so you're in a big open kind of area, but it's claustrophobic because it's one little path that you have to follow through this outside area. Now you get to this big little open area, which is the front of this little rundown shack. Then you go into the shack. Now you're in a claustrophobic area again. So the fact that they do have it is first person, they did it correctly because very few of these areas are actually, expansive in RE7. A lot of them are inside of a house, normal size corridors, which doesn't seem very scary as you walk around your own house or you look around your own house and see, well, this room's not too bad. It's my bedroom, it's kind of big, but they add that layer of the fear of, for example, the dad in the main house, the dad. You don't know where he is. You got to continuously look for him. I mean, hell, within the first 20 minutes of being in the main house, the very beginning, he comes busting through a wall and chucks you around the room like you're a rag doll. So they do a lot of really good things to, add to this, it's first person and it's not a forced perspective anymore, but it's a fantastic return to form and it's a fantastic look because even when you get outside the main house, as anybody who's played 7 will attest to, the little backyard that leads you to the dock, to Marguerite's place or to the barn where Lucas is. Okay. You look around that area and they do with set dressing and things like that, they do a fantastic job, and making it at night also puts it in that claustrophobic, like you are in the middle of nowhere and there is nobody coming for you.
And just that whole horror dressing and Storm again. I know you really haven't played a lot of the Resident Evil stuff, but some of the visceral scenes that Simbu's portraying, one of the ones that I remember quite well, I think it was near the beginning of the game, the dinner scene where you are at the table and there's mom, there's
Yep.
dad, and there's brother, and it's an all-American family dinner.
And don't forget grandma.
What was that?
Don't forget grandma. Grandma's there too.
Yeah, and seeing what's at dinner and it's not good food. The idea that I felt like if you've had a sort of a not so cohesive family experience at the dinner table, in a way, it plays towards that sort of misanthrope, that sort of thought that, okay, here is this family dinner scene that's just you don't know what's going to happen, and if you've got like some of that family trauma that started at a dinner table, it can really trigger that, and in a way it really plays to that horror element, that personification that you as an individual can take in to that particular scene. There's something really just scary about it, and it's really developed with just that whole scene. Uh, Storm, as I sort of describe that, does that kind of ring bells with just some like the horror movie tropes and everything that you've seen and experienced?
Yes, and you know what? Resident Evil 7 is the one that I watched my friend
Ah,
play through.
okay,
So
cool.
it is the one that I have the most experience with because I watched him do a run through of it. But absolutely, it's especially more modern day horror movies, there are a lot of grosser or gorier things that are
Mhm.
coming out. The slasher films from back in the day it's almost laughable in comparison to the gore that is now. So I think makers are going for the more shock and awe than the campy. I mean, there are some really fun campy movies that are coming out. The Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 1 and 2, I recommend on Peacock. They're
Mhm.
campy,
Those
just
are good.
they're surprisingly really well. The
Yeah.
mousetrap, oh, that is just horribly cheesy and it's worth the laugh to watch. But that, for being a modern movie, that last particular entry, Mousetrap, very little gore. And the gore that did happen, you laugh because it's like, oh, this is low budget. But the bigger the budget, the easier, they can make things look more realistic and things have come along since, back in the day when they were using chemicals that nearly burned the actors because that's all that they had. So, times have changed and we of course have CGI and all that, but to help create more visceral experiences and make you enter the world and people like being scared. So that is why our October is such a huge month and the horror industry and the fright industries do so well because people like being scared and having some control over a little bit of that fear.
Yeah, Simba, you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just want to say that that Storm has hit the nail on the head with all of this, especially like for me for RE7. The best part about RE7 is yeah, it is a bit of a gore fest, but unlike the Saw movie franchise, it didn't become just a shock and awe gore fest. The gore done in RE7 is palpable. It fits. It's not overdone. It's not like, oh, yeah, there's blood all running down all these walls. There's, intestines and pig carcasses hanging all over the place. Like they used the gore in like the best way possible. Like the dinner scene. Like you're thinking, oh, it's just dinner. Wait, what in God's name is on the table? But then it doesn't show up again for a little while. Like you don't go into the garage to, fight the dad the first time and there's just blood and guts all over the place. Like you don't know what happens to the cop until later on. But it's well done. It's well used. It again, it comes back to that set dressing, the perfect set dressing for the horror, for the gore in a horror game.
So Astrimedes, we're really establishing the first person view helps to have that like personified look into like this type of a horror game. Would you agree that that was kind of really helped to jump the series back into horror, or and just general thoughts on RE7 if you've heard or played it?
Yeah, so I don't like first person games as a player. I think something is wrong with my brain where like I get very messed up from like a first person view. But I ended up, so out of curiosity, I ended up watching a surprising amount of Resident Evil 7 play over YouTube. And I was really struck that they did actually use it really well. It did actually feel really immersive. It felt like some similar thinking to kind of the first game where like things were very clearly kind of planned out. Like Simbu was saying, so much of the kind of movement is restricted and everything, and that's so they can essentially control the view and feeling you're going to have of everything as you're kind of moving through whatever that space is. And in terms of the gore, I thought it was actually it was pretty effective because like you could actually kind of argue the gore serves like sort of an important story purpose in a way, with kind of like what you're seeing happen throughout the game. It definitely kind of sets a tone. Again, makes everything feel very visceral. So yeah, I thought it was pretty fun. To me, honestly, my honest take was like it didn't even really feel like a Resident Evil game. It just felt like kind of a good first person horror game. That was sort of my takeaway from watching a lot of it. It felt like sort of a an overly long kind of gory sort of found footage horror movie. And I'll say too, like part of the reason it didn't feel like a Resident Evil game is because the kind of relationship it set up with the characters just in the intro to the game, it made me actually care, which is what I always say that's good about a horror movie, makes it a much more effective. You actually care about the characters. To be honest, I haven't really cared about any of the Resident Evil characters except for the ones that are kind of set up in the beginning of this game, where you get this very clear story. Man after his missing girlfriend, whatever. I kind of understand the stakes right away. I'm kind of invested. I hear these recordings of her and all that. So I just thought it was again, you could, it was like the first one. It was pretty cinematic the way they set the whole thing up.
Nice. Yeah, it's the way we kind of describe it, it's interesting how the series has grown and changed since the first entry, where it has really have come a long way. Jason 13th, I know you mentioned your Resident Evil experience has pretty much ended around like the Dreamcast era. Um, did you didn't play or see RE7 at all?
I've only seen like the trailers and a little bit of gameplay of Seven, but I've never played it, and I don't know like anything about the games
No,
really, other
no.
than I know that Resident Evil got away from the horror and went back to the horror. I do know all that. And that might have been part of what got me out of Resident Evil for a little while, is that they were kind of going away from the main games. And so it
Seven
sounds very interesting to get back into the Resident Evil
Seven
here.
is a really good one to jump back into, and you should definitely play it with your young nephew. He'd enjoy seeing a lot of that.
He likes a couple of the other Resident Evil
Yes, he
games, so
does.
that would be a fun one to
Yes,
play.
yes, he does. Hardicus, any experience with RE7 at all?
No, I have not played 7 or 8.
Dang.
As I've said on the show before, like I cannot do first person on consoles. I don't. I don't know if it's hand-eye coordination or what it is, but I just have never been able to play them on consoles. I'm curious. I've heard they're both good, but maybe once I upgrade my potato of a computer, I'll get them on the PC so I can use a mouse and keyboard.
No worries. Now Jamie Owls. I'm going to be calling on our guests in a moment, but I'm saving you as our last crew member for a reason. Your thoughts on RE7 and especially with it being first person.
So RE7 was the very first Resident Evil game I've ever played. Like I heard about them. I knew that they were out, but it was 7 that really caught my eye. And I remember we're in Best Buy, we're in the game section. I saw it and I'm like, oh, this looks kind of intriguing. And I played it, and I, for me personally, I like first person views, and because Resident Evil 7 was the first one I ever played, so to me I was already used to it. So for me personally, I prefer it that way because it just feels like I'm experiencing the game itself, like I'm there in real person. Whereas when I started playing the second one for the first time, it was kind of like jarring to where I was playing the character and I could just see them moving around versus when I played RE7, I was seeing through their eyes. And also in the game too, you kind of see like your hands move when you take out the weapons. I really like the first person. I just kind of feel like I could see better and experience and look around more.
Interesting. Now Mad Beaumont, again, kind of same question. Your thoughts on RE7, first person, more immersion, and thoughts about the return to form for the series.
I love Resident Evil 7. I played it when it first launched on Xbox. I was game sharing with a friend of mine at the time, and I was gonna buy it anyway, but he said, "Nah, dude, don't worry about it. I got it." So he buys it, I download it, I play it right away. It is my game of the year for 2017. Love that game to death because I am a person that I can play either way, third or first person, but I get more immersed from a first person perspective because I feel like I'm right in the eyes of that character that you're playing as.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there playing through this game, and it feels like it took the spirit of PT, which is a Silent Hill game that got canceled. It took that spirit and mixed it with one of my favorite horror movies of all time, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, with the setting and with the family that's there. And it just mishmashed it into this masterpiece of a horror game that, if you ask me, is the single scariest. Like, I have never been more scared by a Resident Evil game than when I played 7. It is frightening. I loved it. I do plan to replay it pretty soon, actually, because my trophy hunting tendencies tend to make me replay games sometimes. So, yeah. But I love that game. So, yeah. I even got
to,
as,
I was gonna say you didn't have to wait long to get your to get your chainsaw in the game either.
Oh no, I didn't have to wait long at all. So, but yeah,
You didn't get to use it, but it was there.
it was there. It was there. I got to look at it, but I didn't get to use it.
You got to feel it though.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, I cannot tell you how much I love that game, and I love how it was the return to form. Because I'll be honest with you, I said if the next game after 6 is anything like 5 or 6, I was done with Resident Evil. So the fact that it pulled it back and returned to form was it definitely saved the franchise for me.
Rad, are you in agreement with Matt on his comments, or anything else to add on that?
Yeah, so I mean, I'd actually like to. It's a pretty special game to me, so I'd like to share a story if that's all right.
Oh yeah.
So I apologize if I get emotional doing this. So I actually didn't like Resident Evil 7 at first. So my best friend, I call him my brother a lot because to me that's what he was. We both bought it. I didn't care for it because I thought it took the series in a different route because it wasn't zombies and things like that. But he was different he bought the collector's edition. He bought a VR for it. Like, he loved it. And I couldn't quite understand like why. I didn't get it. I was like, it's, you got Texas Chainsaw, but he's a big horror fan. He's who, he got me into horror. Like, he is why I am who I am. And sorry. He actually had passed away. And so they were releasing Resident Evil 8 on his birthday.
Wow.
And so I said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and pre-order that, and I'm going to revisit 7. And so it was a time in my life where, I'm sorry. It was a time in my life where, I was having back-to-back panic attacks, and I didn't quite know what I was going to do with my life anymore. Because, like, that was my other half. My mom called him my moral compass. I was the hot-headed, tempered, getting into fights, and he's the big teddy bear who's like, no, spread love, not hate, And so I replayed 7, and it was kind of like he was right there again, telling me like, no, you got to look at it this way, and this is why this is the way it is, and this ties into this. And I absolutely love that game now, and I absolutely love 8. And it's a game he never got to experience, but I felt like he was right there with me playing 8 because I knew how much he loved 7, and it was how he wanted Resident Evil to go. So like, yeah, I absolutely love 7. I think it is a great game, and I'm so sad that I didn't appreciate it when I should have. But I have a whole new appreciation for it because of him, because he looked so, it was like two different eyes, you know, like he looked at it one way, I looked at it one way, but like when he was gone, I got to look at it through his eyes. So I thought I'd share that because yeah, it's a really special game to me. I definitely have grown to appreciate 7 because of that.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And again, I'm sorry for your loss of your brother. And you do him honor and you do him justice by experiencing not only 7 through his eyes, but also living for him and living through him by playing 8. And everything that you mentioned, he would have really enjoyed 8. Just continuing with 8 sort of being that continuance, maybe it got a little bit more actiony, but it keeps that first person. It does add a third person for people like Hardicus if he's interested in exploring that. But you really got to play 7 because again, story wise, 8 continues right off of 7. But no, definitely thank you for sharing that. We definitely appreciate it. And I'll just say as we sort of round the bend here and get to concluding, I'll ask you guys your thoughts on the 8th entry, thoughts on, and Matt, I'll probably start with you. Any issues or with the continuation of the first person view? Thoughts on if you've played it through third person? Have you played any of the VRs? Did you want Lady Dimitrescu to step on you as much as the rest of the fanboys?
Well, when it comes to 8, I love how it continued that first person view. I I thought that at least for the next century that followed Ethan, it should have stayed with that. So I'm glad it did. I also am glad that it gave me more of a first person Resident Evil 4 vibe that game did. So there's that. I love the village, loved exploring that, especially the castle. The castle is probably the best part of the game because it was so cool going through that castle, and it made me feel like I was playing a Igavania Castlevania game in a Resident Evil game. So, kind of hit me in the heartstrings right there. And then throughout the whole rest of the game, just seeing it unfold, seeing Ethan's story unfold, and seeing where it ended off, loved it. It was my game of the year for that year. So I absolutely love it. Actually, Village 8 is a top 3 Resident Evil game for me. It, man, love that game. Love that game to death. But I'm not going to do too much explaining on it because I know a certain a certain someone in this call is definitely going to do it a little bit of justice. So I'm going to leave that up to him. But as far as the third person perspective goes, I haven't played that because I don't have the DLC pack or the gold edition of the game to play it. But kind of don't want to. It feels perfect as it is as a first person game. So I feel like if I play it in third person, it would kind of ruin it for me.
No, that makes sense. Rad, any additional before I call on Simbu because I want to get with this being more actiony than how 7 was. I definitely want Simbu's take, and I'll ask Simbu. But Rad, any additional thoughts or feedback regarding 8?
Oh, I loved it. And like I said, I played those two like right after it. It's a phenomenal game. It is my number 2 Resident Evil game. The first person is not a problem to me. I think it is. I love 4, and I think that's why I love 8 so much. And that's it ties so well together, in my opinion. But no, I credit Resident Evil as the game that fixed my broken heart. Because Resident Evil 8, I was like, man, my brother would have loved this. It was so good, so good. Like, yeah, it's a phenomenal game. And I'm not like one of those like simpy guys, like, oh, Lady Dimitrescu. No, like that's not why I like. Don't get me wrong, she bad. I'm not gonna deny that, but that wasn't why I liked the game.
I'm not either.
But no,
I
it
call
was a
BS.
great game. She was fine. Great game. It was good. It was really good.
Oh,
Phenomenal game.
nice. So Simbu, your thoughts on 8?
Oh boy. Well, fun fact, the entirety of the original PS1 Resident Evil, the entirety of the polygons, literally is her butt.
Really?
the amount of polygons in the very first Resident Evil PS1 is the exact amount of polygons it took to create Lady Dimitrescu's butt.
Well,
But
that's
the
like
same-
That's actually really cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I
that's
didn't either.
that's like the phones in your hand are more powerful than the computers that sent the people to the moon in the 60s.
Yeah,
But-
it's
Wow.
it's just one of those weird facts that randomly showed up, and I'm like,
Randomly.
wow.
Yeah, right. He's on Google. He's like,
It's
no.
You were
It's not like
thinking
Simbu
about
was
it.
Googling Lady Dimitrescu
Okay,
butt.
okay,
you
so
know.
all right, we're just gonna ignore the fact that I was looking stuff up for Rad. Okay, just ignore that.
You're not supposed to tell them.
No, it's one of those facts that like you think though, you look at, because like you look at like polygonals and things like that from over time. So just like the fact that the entirety of the RE1 polygonal data is in such a small part of a
Small?
game nowadays.
My man. My man.
Hey,
He says small.
in scope of the entirety, it is a small part.
some.
If you
To
say
some,
small,
that
that's-
was a big part.
it was a good
Well,
part.
okay. All right, a big part, but in relation to the castle, it was a small part.
Fair.
Um,
Fair.
on that note, Jamie Owls, what were your thoughts on the 8th entry and the DLC? Because you played both.
And the
and
butt.
her butt.
Yeah, there you go. My man. My man.
Well, I the whole time I wasn't really thinking about her butt. However,
Aw.
Now she is.
yeah, now I am. Because I'm gonna be playing it and be looking at it the whole
Yeah,
time.
we know what her search history is going to be tonight. You know what I'm saying?
Fox is getting a costume, I'll tell you that much.
Not supposed to say anything. Go.
What the hell are we talking about again?
Your actual thoughts
Yes.
on Resident
What?
Evil Village.
Your actual thoughts on Resident Evil 8.
Not Fox cosplaying as, what's her name from Resident Evil 8.
Oh, so I'm apparently playing as. Okay.
Oh, wait.
Oh,
wanna
not
hear
okay.
the
The
Okay.
lunatics have control of the asylum.
Okay.
I want to see Fox in the cosplay so very soon.
Oh, I do too.
Oh,
Maybe.
Halloween
good.
costume
Thank
movie.
you.
Maybe.
Okay, so my thoughts are well, I thought it was a good game. I really enjoyed it. I just thought it was like really cool how they did like so the 7th I would assume took place in the United States, and so the second story kind of takes place in like a different like country, which I thought was really interesting because you get to see the whole like little town village, and the castle part was probably my favorite part of the game. I really enjoyed exploring the castle, and yes, I do think Lady Dimitrescu was really awesome in it. She was probably one of my favorite villains in that game.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I just like how they continue the storyline with Ethan just to get like um not closure, but just kind of a little bit more expansion of his side of the story. And if they were to do the a 9th, because I know there's a DLC where you play a little bit as Rose, so I'm just curious if they were to continue with Resident Evil 9 as Rose. I think that would be like a cool concept.
Yeah, and I thought I heard rumors. Obviously, 9 is being made. I thought it had to
Yeah.
do something with the West or something. Random.
Yeah, you're correct. Yeah, and they wrapped up the Winters story. The Winters are
Mhm.
they're done. She had the DLC, and that was kind of the full circle of it. I believe from what I was reading, they did 9 is officially in development. It got the ratings got posted of what the game was going to be like, rated M, obviously, but that got put in like what was it, like, was it Korea, Belmont?
Yeah, I think it was
yeah,
Korea.
it's something like that. But yeah, no, it's coming, and it is in the West. But yeah, I believe the Winters are their storyline is finished.
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't be surprised if they announced RE9 or the next Resident Evil project at the Jeff Keighley Game Awards. I
Yeah,
wouldn't
probably.
just to sort of have an because it has been RE4. Was that last year, the remake, or was that this year?
RE4 remake was last year.
Last year,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's a year without Resident Evil 2024. I'm surprised. Well, that's why we are here. We've been here to talk all things Resident Evil. Now, Astrimedes, any thoughts on RE8 before before I call it?
Oh, I just played a demo of Resident Evil Village Gold briefly. I think it was gold because I think I was able to see what the third person view looked like. It felt awkward like it always does when they shoehorn it in. And I guess I would say Resident Evil 8, just from my very modified take. I mean, I only played the demo, so I don't know the whole game, but it felt more kind of gamey than Resident Evil 7 did. And it felt much more like even the UI, it felt like I was seeing the old school Resident Evil UI stuff come up. And maybe I just don't remember noticing it, but it didn't seem like from watching the video from Resident Evil 7 that you saw as much of the kind of like recognizable sort of like UI elements and stuff from the old Resident Evil game. So it very much felt like it was trying to bring Resident Evil 7 like just a little bit back towards the like older Resident Evil game design to me. But I just played the demo. Don't really have a whole lot of opinions other than that.
Nice. No, that's fair. Yeah, so that is Resident Evil, and we really glossed over the spin-offs portion because there were a number of spin-offs like I had mentioned, but this is probably my favorite tertiary video game series, and I say it all the time. I think Jamie always gets tired of me saying that because it's like I've barely played it, but like I love the fact that like I love the series just because of like a lot of it is just such a different sets of experiences with 1 through 3 and then 4 being a thing and then 5 and 6 being its own thing and then 7 and 8 and just what it encapsulates and the story and not just the story but like our stories, hearing you guys and hearing Rad's experiences and then Mad doing everything with trying to get the trophies and going to be replaying it and then even getting Storm's thoughts and feelings with it as they coincide with her large knowledge of like just horror movies in general. There's a lot that goes on with it, and so I'm really appreciative of that, and especially huge shout out and thank you to our special guests. Again, that is Rad Bash Gaming and the Mad Belmont. They are members of Super Retro Force. We're going to have links in the description below if you are watching on or listening through YouTube, as well as within the description set if you are listening us to all major podcasts, as well as huge shout out to my fantastic cast and crew as always. And we here have a lot more fun going with Spooktober as the month of October goes along. It's kind of like what Storm was saying about how, oh, hey, it's a celebration of all things spooky and all things scary. And speaking of spooky and scary, parting shots.
How many likes will it take to get you to cosplay?
Not as many as you would think.
We gotta know. We gotta know.
We have to know. One
Not
like
as
and
many
they'll do
as
it.
you would think.
One like. Yeah.
If we can get to 1,000, if we can get you to 1,000 subs, then maybe we'll see you cosplay.
Not as many as you would think. Not like I don't already have the outfit or anything. I don't know.
My man.
Jamie Owls is getting a show tonight.
Oh,
Poor
Only
Jamie
one way to
Owls.
find out. Like, subscribe, and sell us your firstborn children.
I thought you were going to say sell us your foot pics or something.
There is
that's
a
where I
market.
was expecting it to go. I didn't expect it to go like that, like how that went.
Welcome to Inferno Fox Gaming Patreon.
Oh,
Only
you
fan.
just wait.
The only
You just
fans.
wait.
Only fans.
Wait, not well. We
Here's a
shouldn't do an
feat.
OnlyFans. We should come up with an Only Games website. That's where all this kind of stuff happens.
Oh gosh. Oh, but again, huge thank you. And of course, to our fantastic audience, we appreciate you, and we will see you on the next one. Bye.